Hey, this is René, welcome back for another video on this channel. Today I'm back with another programming tutorial.
This video is presented by BM Trading. Learn to code your own expert advisors. Link in the description.
So what is the idea? As you can see here, or as you know, I'm a big fan of stock trading, because then we always have this long bias. Because if we look back in the stock market history, we can see that in general, the stock market goes up. And so it did also in the period that I marked here, or actually the kind of like the whole period that is available for me here in the MetaTrader 5 history. I know that there have been years where it was not like this and where the market was not only going up, but in the last years we have seen a very good positive trend. And also if we have a look at the very long-term performance, it is always going up, which is fundamentally, of course, based or logical. And if you believe in this idea also, then this video or this concept might be interesting to you, because what we can see here, while the US 30 went up in the last 8 years maybe, from 2018 it went up around 90%, let's say 100%. But if we have a look at this backtest here, where I trade a stock-based fully automated strategy tested for the same time period, starting with 50,000 capital, I go up to 300,000, which means that there's a profit of 500 or 600% even, which is a lot more. Of course, also the drawdowns here are a little bit bigger, but as you know, drawdowns can also be easily reduced by using less risk. And then in the end, it's all about like risk reward ratio, and I think it is very good for this specific strategy. So what is this strategy and how does this strategy look like? I will show it to you in the visual mode for 1 second. You can see here I'm using the US 30 to demonstrate this, but this is not a strategy that trades only the US 30, but instead you can see here we're trading a bunch of stocks. And how this looks like is that the expert advisor is continuously scanning all of the stocks, in this case all of the US 30 or Dow Jones stocks. And you can see, for example, Apple we have here, or Amazon, or a lot of other stocks. And whenever the price drops a specific percentage below the moving average, in this case I use 5%, then we will open a buy position. So you could say this is a mean reversion strategy with a long bias. Obviously long bias because, as I said, historically stocks were going up, and I personally believe that if there is not like a really bad thing happening in this world, then it should continue like this, that the stocks should go up before they go down. So what we see here, we open the buy positions once the price is down 5%, and then here in this test I used a 5% stop loss also, but then once the stop loss is triggered, it will immediately open another buy position. And the reason for this is because the condition is still given that we are 5% below the moving average. The reason for the continuous opening of the positions is that we will increase the lot size a little bit for the positions once the price goes down. So this is a tiny martingale effect that we do have here, but it's not so strong, I would say. And then we close the positions once we are back to the mean, which is the moving average here. We can use any moving average. In this test I used the 100 period moving average, and you can see this is what I do in every single stock. So once we see the signal, we are trading, then we're waiting for the price to reverse to the mean and then cash in the profits. And there are a lot of different versions of this program we could create, and this is why I said this will probably be the first video of a series where we use this concept or this template that we create in this tutorial as a basis for multiple strategies that are based on stock trading, because I think it's a really good opportunity, especially because we have this long bias, which gives us a theoretically very high win probability. So I hope you like this concept. And so what we will do in this tutorial is we will create a expert advisor for the MetaTrader 5 that is able to trade all of the stocks at the same time. So it will only be one program that manages all of the stocks. And also this program will, first of all, of course, we will create the data structure, so this is possible. Then we will create a logic already to implement what we have seen here, using the moving average as a filter mechanism or as a foundation for this mean reversion strategy. And then we will work with a risk in either percent or a specific amount of euro or US dollar. So that's what we will do. So let's start right away. If you opened your MetaTrader 5, you can click on IDE in the upper left corner or go to Tools, MetaQuartz Language Editor to open the MetaQuartz Language Editor, and then in the upper left corner click on New. Expert Advisor template should be pre-selected. Click on Next, choose a name for this. My original program was Stock Portfolio Manager. I can just say Stock Manager YT for YouTube, but you can choose any name that is suitable for you, and then click on Next, Next, and Finish. And this is the brand new program. I will quickly delete the comments and the properties because they do not affect the program at all. Also, this programming tutorial will not be like for absolute beginners, because we need a little bit more advanced programming techniques like object-oriented programming, but still it will not be very complicated and you should be able to follow along. I will try to explain as much as it is needed for you to follow along. And then also, if you want to have a fully detailed programming tutorial or programming course, you will also find it on my website, ian.bmtrading.de. It will also be linked in the description of this video. So what we want to do is, first of all, we will include a few files. So we will include the arrays, array object, a class. Oops, here I forgot the H. Okay, now it should be fine. So we will include this file, and also we can already include the trade.mqh file that we will need to open positions. So what I did here is, and you can also see it down here, we include two files into a program. We will use the array object or array object class that we can find here in the left side in the navigator. If you go to the include folder and click on arrays and then array object, you can see this is the array object class, and that's a class that helps us to store a bunch of objects or pointers to instances of the object class. This will be necessary because we will create a instance for every single stock, and this helps us to store all of these stock objects that we will later create in an array, so it's easy for us to loop through this array and just to work with it. Then also we include the trade class, which you can also see here on the left side in the include folder. If you go to include trade.mqh, and this is the trade class, and this is for trading operations. It's a very basic class that helps us to open, close, and manage positions. So after including these files, and we also automatically include the object class. This is important because now when we create our own class, which is the class that we will use to create and also manage the different stocks, then we can inherit from the object class. This will be important so we can store all of the instances in the array object array that we will later create. So we will create our own class, which we can call, for example, CStock, and then this should inherit from the object class. If we write it like this, you can see compile and there's no problem. This will be our own class where we can now create variables and functions to manage the different stocks. If object-oriented programming is completely new to you and you want to learn more about it, I cover it in detail in my programming course. And also you will find, I think, at least one video on this channel where I explained it in detail, how objects or how classes work and also how inheritance works. You will find it on this channel. Just look for it if you're interested. So for the sake of simplicity, I will make everything in this class public, even though it's not always the best programming habit in this case, it doesn't really matter because the program that we create here is super simple, so it's very easy and it will not cause any confusion if everything's public. So what we need first is the name of the stock, or the symbol if we speak in MT5 terminology. So this will be the symbol of our stock. And now what we can do is also, when we go to the functions, we can create a constructor for this. And in this constructor, we want to have one parameter, which will be the stock name or the name of the stock. Or we can also say symbol. Actually, this is not only working for stocks, we could use any symbol, but in this case, yeah, it kind of makes sense to use it for stocks the way we design this program. So here we will have a constructor that requests a symbol, and then we want to say that the M symbol should be updated with this symbol. Wait, is this the correct syntax? No, it's not. It's like this, should be fine. And we still need the body, even if we don't really want to use it here for our constructor. Okay, if we set up the constructor like this, it will help us to easily create instances of this CStock class, where we automatically or immediately in the beginning already provide the actual symbol for the stock, and it will be stored in the M symbol variable. So what we do here is basically, if we create a class, it means that we can later create instances of this class. So object-oriented programming means pretty much that you can create like templates or models or like data structures, generally speaking, where you can create multiple instances later of this data structure. So usually it's recommended to use object-oriented programming or objects if you have a specific data structure that you will use multiple times throughout your program. And these data structures, they can have variables and functions. So every single instance of this CStock class will have its own M symbol variable and its own constructor. The constructor is a predefined function, I would say, that is automatically called whenever you create a new instance of a class. And this constructor is built like a normal function pretty much, and it can have parameters. And then this is special syntax in mql5 programming where you can automatically initialize member variables. These are the variables inside of classes with specific values. And here we want to initialize the M symbol member variable. That's what the M stands for member variable. And this will be initialized with the value that is provided here as a parameter value for this symbol variable in the constructor parameter list. And then also this constructor can have a body, or has to have a body, as we learned here, but in this case it is empty, and then we end with the semicolon. And this constructor is always called when we create new instances of this CStock object. So what we want to do next is we also want to have here a handle for the moving average. So here we have it's an integer value, of course, M handle moving average, and here we will get the moving average handle for every single stock, because every single stock, of course, needs its own moving average handle. So how can we make use of this CStock class now? For example, in the onInit, let's create some CStock instances. So we create instances of this class or objects of this class using a like the normal syntax that we use to create variables, because objects are also called object variables and they are pretty much just variables. And so also the object variables just point to a specific destination in the memory of your computer, and at this destination in your computer, all of the relevant information that belongs to this specific instance of the class will be stored at this point in your computer. So we can say we want to have stock 1, for example, And now we can say that either here we already provide the name, and in this case the name should be, for example, aapl.nas. aapl.nas, this would be the apple. And if I compile, you can see this is working. So if we now print stock 1 M symbol, we will see that this will print apple.nas. So if I go here in my MT5 to the experts tab in the toolbox and then activate the program here, expert advisors, and then go to Stock Manager YT. This is my program. If I activate it here, you can see it prints aapl.nas because this is the value that is now stored in the M symbol variable of this stock 1 instance object variable. And this is because we use the constructor here in a way that it will automatically update the M symbol variable once a stock object is created. And as you already can imagine now, we can create another stock. And that's the power of using object-oriented programming, because once we have this template here, or this class, we can use this class and easily create multiple instances. So for example, we can see here what, let's say Tesla, for example, we can also use Tesla, TSLA. TSLA, is it also in the NASDAQ listed here? Yes. So we can use like this, and then we can say print stock 1 and stock 2 M symbol, and as you can guess already, we will print different values now for these different stocks that we just created, or instances of this CStock class. So that's the power of object-oriented programming. So what we want to do is we don't want only these two, but we want to have like a bunch of names here, or like a list of stocks. So what I did in this program here, this is my already existing program, you can see here I created the getDowIC class, and I will just copy it, but I will also explain how it works. So copy and paste it here in my Stock Manager YouTube program. So if I go down here, I will say paste. So how this looks like, okay, I will remove these lines and explain to you in detail how it looks like. So you can see here, this is a pretty basic class. You can just copy these lines here to also add it to your program. So write void, which is the return type for this function, then space, then the name of the function here. I use getDowIC because it's all of the Dow Jones stocks that I have with my broker IC trading. And then we don't need parameters for this, and we need the brackets to create the body for this function. And then I just want to add a bunch of stocks to my stocks array here. So what does this mean? Okay, let me add all of these stocks here, but you can just add all of the stocks you want. So you can see the line is always the same. We say stocks.add, and then we create a new CStock instance, kinda. And this new is a little bit specific because it will create a like a pointer or a descriptor, which is the name in mql5. But this goes a little bit deeper into object-oriented programming. For now, for this tutorial, for this short and easy explanation, you just need to know that this is a way how we can store a bunch of stocks in an array. Because if we compile this, we will get an error because it says the stocks identifier is not known, and this is because we will need to create it. So up here, as a global variable, we will say CArray object, and then we will create this stocks named instance of the CArray object class. So if we compile this, all of our problems are gone and everything's working now. So let me remove these lines here, and let's go back down to the getDowIC function. So how does this look like? I said we don't have any return type. We just use this function or call this function, and then all of this will be executed. And this means that with every line, we will add a new stock into our stocks array. So okay, let me get rid of this again. So you can see if we just add one stock, it means that we take this stocks array, which is the object variable that we created here, and it is of type C array object. If we go here by moving our cursor inside of this and then pressing Alt and G on your keyboard, you can automatically jump to the definition of the C array object class, but you can also of course find it here on the left side, arrays C array object or array object, as I showed you before. And here you can read about this class, and you can see this class, it holds an it contains an array of type C object, and it is a data array in which we can store pointers, or in Mql5 language, descriptors of objects. And long story short, this means that we can store other objects, as many as we want, in this array that is then located in the C array object class. And this is why it is important that we inherit from this C object class here, because if I do it, I can compile, but if I remove this up here, I cannot compile, because this CStock is now not a C object. But again, if you want to learn more about this, check out my programming course or learn with the free video on YouTube that I uploaded already about this topic. Okay, so now you can see we can create this, we can add this one stock, but we can also add all of the stocks that I have here in with my broker. So if I do this, I would just add all of the stocks here, and if we compile and then in the on init say get Dow IC, it will help us to store all of the stocks in the stocks array. So if we, for example, now use a simple loop to go through the stocks in this array, we can say print, we need to get the stock. And this is a way to get all of the stocks now in this array. But we can say print stock, and then we can say m symbol. And if we compile this and activate the program, it's still active. You can see we're printing all of the different stocks or symbols that we now added to the stocks array. So this is how we can get all of the stocks into this array. Now what we want to do next is we want to make sure that we have a bunch of input parameters, or we could start working on our CStock class. Let's do that maybe. Okay, we want to have a function here where we can get the actual moving average value. So we can write a function that we name, for example, get MA value, get moving average value. And this function will of course return a double value. So what we need to do here is, first of all, we need to work with our m handle MA. And what we can do here is, for example, we can say if m handle MA is smaller or equals 0, then we want to initialize this variable. Also, to be 100% safe, we can say m handle MA should be initialized with 0 up here. Okay, then we can say m handle MA should be initialized with the return value of IMA. And now this is the basic moving average function that we can get to use to create a handle for this moving average indicator. And then we can say the symbol name, and now it's really important that we use this specific string value here, because for every single stock we will have a different value stored in this m symbol variable. So we can just use m symbol here, then the period, and here I would like to use input variables for this. We can say, for example, enum time frames, time frame, or MA time frame should be period D1, for example, by default, but can be anything. MA time frame, then the period. Maybe we also create a input variable for this. MA periods could be 100 or 1000 or whatever you want. Can be changed by the user later anyways. So MA periods, then shift value, I will just hard code. I will also hard code the mode here, but you can also create input variables for this if you want. And then I will also price close, hard code the price here. And then you can see this will create or initialize the m handle MA variable if it's not initialized yet. I mean, we could do it here, but actually we could also do it in the constructor, whatever is more suitable for you. Maybe it's even cleaner to do it in the constructor. So let's just move this up here, and that's totally fine. Then we don't need it here, and we don't even need to initialize this value. But what this does is just if the constructor is executed, and as I said, it's always executed once we create a new instance of the CStock class, then we will also update the mHandle variable with the correct value, with the correct symbol, time frame, periods, etc., etc. So then when we have the get MA value function, we can now make use of this mHandle MA, and we just use the copy buffer function. So let's create an array for the return values. Then we can say copy buffer. And here we use our handle, of course. mHandle MA. Buffer number is main line because we only have one line. Then 1, 1, and MA. So we just get one value for the last bar. We can also go for the current bar. It doesn't really matter here actually. And then we only want to store one value in this MA array. What we can do here is we can also check if we even get this value, and if not smaller than 1, then we want to return -1, for example, or anything. But if we do have if we could receive a value and store it in the MA array, then we want to return the MA array at index 0, and this will be the moving average value. So let's have a look at this. So in our getDow function here, or maybe for demonstration purposes, I will create the loop again to just show you how it will look. Stocks at I, and then we can say print stock m symbol, and then stock get MA value. So you can see that we will now get the moving average value for every single stock, hopefully. Cannot load indicator, that's a problem. Okay, it's just giving us for a few. Let's run this again. Opala. It's not initialized again. Okay, so wait, let me remove this and stock manager. There you go. It's a bit weird that it's only giving me the values when I remove it. But yeah, you can see here now we have all of the stocks and the moving average value. For example, if we go and look at this in one example, this is 100 moving average. If we open the data window, we can see it here also. The moving average value is here. And this is for Apple now. So we can compare the moving average value at the last bar for Apple. Like this. And it should be the same value that is printed in the expert journal, and it's correct. So you can see this is a way to get all of the moving average values, the current moving average values for all of our stocks here by using this simple mechanism here. So then once we have this so far, we also want a execute by function now. And this will be used to open the positions. So what we want to do here is we want to get, of course, the entry price. And here it's important that we always work with the M symbol now here, because if we use underscore symbol like we did in many other programming tutorials, we will always get the symbol of the current chart. So if we are running in apple.nas, we will always get the apple.nas value. If we run in US 30 or US Tech or US 30, we will get the value for this chart. So it's important that we always use, instead of M symbol, which is the or instead of underscore symbol, we want to use M symbol, which refers to this member variable here. Then we will get the ask price for every single stock. And then, I mean, it's always recommended to just round these values to precision of 2 or to precision of the digits. And the digits we also need to get here. Digits will be symbol info integer and then M symbol digits. So we round the values here. Then we want to have a stop loss, and here I like to use a stop loss in percent. Let's create the group here. MA settings, and then we can have another group with like the trade settings, for example, or signal settings, or it doesn't really matter. Trade settings, and here we can have, for example, the risk. Should we use it as a money or a percent? We can use percent. 0.5 or 1, doesn't really matter. And then input double TP percent, SL percent. Okay, we create a bunch of input variables that we will use. And now we can say SL should be entry minus entry multiplied with SL percent divided by 100. And then also we want to round this like we did before. TP will be entry plus entry multiplied TP percent. And then also round this, of course. Also here for the TP, I want to have like this. I want to have the option to not use a TP and also not to use a SL actually. So what I will do is I will say SL is equal 0, and then only if SL percent is greater than 0, I want to calculate the stop loss. Otherwise we will use no stop loss, which is 0. And here also TP percent, only if it's greater than 0, then we want to update the TP, otherwise we don't. So this will help us to calculate all of these values. Actually, the execute by doesn't have a double as the return value, but instead a ulong. Okay, and then if we have all of these values, I think we can already open the position. We need a ctrade object variable to open positions. Now we can say trade by, and we will open. We need to calculate the lots also. So for calculating the lots in percent, we first of all need the risk, and this will be the account info double account balance, and multiply with the risk in percent divided by 100, with percent as our input variable that we created here. This will be our risk. Then we need some more values like tick size. Here we have symbol info double. Here import again M symbol trade tick size. Then we need tick value, symbol info double M symbol trade tick value. I mean, it's a bit of course, I mean, tick value will be like 1 cent and tick size is 0.01. Actually, sometimes I think stocks even have 3 digits after the decimal point. So we should do it like this. And then we also want the lot step, because your broker might allow also fractional purchases of stocks. Symbol info double M symbol volume step. Okay, with this we can now say that we calculate the lots in a way that we have the risk per lot step, and this will be just the stop loss distance, which is entry minus stop loss divided by tick size multiplied with tick value multiplied with lot step. Should be fine. And then this is our risk per lot step, and then we have the actual lots, risk divided by risk per lot step multiplied with lot step. This should be the actual lots. And then we can round this. Normalize double, lots, and 2 digits after the decimal point should be fine. Okay, so now we can use the lot size here for our function. Then we provide the symbol, which is M symbol, of course, the price entry, SLTP, and comment we don't really need. So if we compile like this, this should be fine. And then return value will be trade result order, I think. And this should be fine. Then we do have one problem here, but we can easily solve it in if we typecast this to an integer. Okay, this is our execute by function. So now this is basically how we can set up our class that we can use to create a bunch of CStock instances, and then we can trade them. So now what we can do is we can create or use the onTick function of our program to go through all of the different stocks using the same for loop. So this for loop is very simple. Like we start at 0. As long as we go as we do have more objects in this array, we increase I by 1, because at every single index in the stocks array we will find one CStock descriptor. This is what we did before already at I, and then we can say let's create a onTick function for every stock like this. If we compile, we can see there's a problem because this function doesn't exist, but we can create it easily here. We can say void onTick, and then we have a onTick function in every single stock. So here we should add the code that will be executed for every single stock with every single tick. So what we can do is here we can say if, or we can say actually MA, where we get MA value. Now we can say, oh, let's create another signal settings, percent trigger or trigger percent. Let's say 5% as it was in my example. Here we can say now, we also need to get the bit price. M symbol bit. And here we can now check if the bit price is smaller than the MA multiplied minus MA multiplied with trigger percent trigger. What was my name? Trigger percent. Signal percent, signal, trigger percent. Trigger percent divided by 100. So this is our signal. And then we can say execute by. Okay, this is not perfect yet because it will open multiple by positions, but as a very first approach, this should be fine. So let's see how this looks like, because now we have something that we can use in the strategy tester. Open the strategy tester in your MetaTrader by clicking View Strategy Tester or clicking Control R on the keyboard. Here you can now go to like Overview, Visualize, select the program you created. For me it's Stock Manager YT, then choose any symbol. I use US 30, and then we can use a time period. I go with the same time period. Modeling method can be 1 minute, open, high, low, close, I think. And then click here, visual mode. You can see also all of the inputs here that we created, but I will just go with the default settings for now. So let's click start and see how this looks. It's loading, and you can see if it's correctly done. You can see all of the different stocks are also loaded here, and we can see the first execution already. So let me search for this chart here, and you can see we do see an execution here because we are should be more than 5% below the moving average, and we open positions in this specific stock with the TP and SA. The problem is that we I mean, you can see also in other charts now we open like this CVX, I don't know what this is, but we can see here, we can see in Apple there are positions, so you can see all of these charts are traded in a way that we want it to be traded. We do see TP and SA. We will add the logic for closing at the moving average later. Now what we also see is that we get too many positions, and this is of course not what we want and what we have to fix. So the easiest way to handle this is to say that we will create a variable here, I guess, which we can, at least for testing, this is totally fine. For actually using it in a live account, maybe it's not 100% safe, because of sometimes there's delay with position opening, but for now it should be fine if we just create a variable here which we call mTicket or mPosition or mPosition ticket, because this will be the ticket of our position. Or let's just call it mTicket, doesn't matter. And now when we use the execute by function here, we can say, or actually here in the onTick, we can say we want to update mTicket with the return value of the execute by, because it will return the resulting order of this execution. So then we update it here in the onTick, and then also of course we need to check if mTicket is smaller than 0 or smaller or equal 0, then we want to open positions. So with this we can do the exact same test. And now instead of seeing multiple orders like we did before, we will see a lot less. So you can see now every time we see a signal, it's only executing one order and is looking a lot cleaner, and it is doing exactly what we want pretty much. So yeah, I want to see one example where the price goes down a lot, so we can see if we also have this little martingale component. Actually one more problems why we do not see multiple positions in the same symbol. We never reset this mTicket variable, so that's what we can do here now. So we can check in every onTick if mTicket is greater than, actually we can try, what do we do? mTicket, if mTicket is greater than 0, then we want to try to select a position. If position select by ticket with mTicket. If we can select a position, then we want to operate with this position. If we cannot select a position, then it means that the position is closed and we can reset mTicket to 0. So by doing this, we can make another test, and we can see that now we will not only open one position in every chart and then no more positions ever, but instead we will open positions again once these positions are closed. We can have a look at this in the Apple chart, for example. So you can see now there's the second position already, and we can also see once the price goes down. You can see here, this is this little martingale component. It's not like actual martingale, but it should increase the lot size just a little bit with every other position, because then the stock price is smaller. And yeah, you can see here that's how it works. I think it's a working mechanism. And here okay, this is not really perfect because we use this TP. Instead, we want to implement it in a way that it will close once we hit we go above the moving average. I mean, this is still valid. You can use it like this, but I will also show you now how you can do it so it will close at the moving average. For that, we need to say, or we can say TP% should be 0. And then in the onTick function of our CStock class, here where we select a position and we know that this position is open, we now can say or can check if bid is greater or equal. I mean, greater, equal, doesn't really matter, doesn't make a big difference. The MA, because then we want to close the position. So we will say trade. We will need to create a trade object first. And then we can say trade position close. And then we provide mticket as a parameter. And also we want to check if it worked. So if trade, actually we don't even need that, because once the position is closed with the next tick, we should realize it and reset the ticket. So now you can see here, if we do another backtest and set TP% to 0, it means we will not use a TP, but instead always close once we hit the moving average. So let's have a look at this. How does it look? Here it worked just fine in Apple. We can also see in other charts it's working just fine. And here where we saw in Apple this very long down movement, you can see that now for this position we don't close after 5% profit, but we just close once we jump above this moving average. So I don't know which one is better, but that's how I showed it to you in the example at the beginning of this video. And now you can see here, this should create kinda a similar graph to what I have shown you before. We can also do a backtest in a way that it is not using the visual mode, so it's a lot faster. And if we have a look at the graph here, we will see the performance in a second. Okay, here you can see the test is over. Not the exact same result as in the test I showed to you before. I think I had slightly different settings, but like it's kind of similar. Also, it's very interesting if we see, or if we compare it to, where is it? My long-term chart here for US 30, you can see that the graph looks very similar. So we are able to kind of mirror, or at least have a similar performance than the index. If we have a look at these like drawdown periods, they're similar to the ones in the actual US 30 index, but the big benefit is that, or that we have here, is that we can still modify this template that we just created, this expert advisor, create more filters, play around with SLTP, and also we make use of the leverage. So we can, as you can see here, we also like made a lot or much better performance here, going from 50K to more than 200K than the actual index, which did thus just around 100% in the same time period. So this is the power of leverage, as always. And also now I want to show you one more thing, because this backtest took quite a long time, and I'm not sure if it's really necessary to do everything here, every single tick, but instead you could also say, for example, in the on tick of your program, you want to check the time first. We can have mql date time, for example, and store the current time in the same time variable, and then we can check if date time hour is equal to 16 or is not 6, wait, if datetime hour is equal to 16 and datetime minute is equal to how do we do it? We could also say, yeah, let's say it's equal to 40 or something. So at 1640, only then we want to do this. And if we do the same test again now, it should be a lot quicker already. But you can also just test it on your own device and you will see how much it will speed up the backtest. It's really, really huge difference, and especially if you are thinking about optimization runs, this will speed up the the optimizations that you do by in insane amount. So it's definitely recommended to do this if you want to do long-term backtests. Actually, the performance is worse now, which I don't really understand. And also, I just realized we see a lot of invalid volume errors here. So maybe we need to work on that. Let's fix this first. So of course we have to look at our execute by function here. So instead of rounding to 2 digits after the decimal point, what we can do here is, I think it makes sense to just round this first to the full integer, then multiply with the lot step, because then we can make sure that we will just trade the lot sizes that we can trade, and this hopefully should get rid of the errors. It does not. Oh, this looks very different now. Risk per lot step. Is it not working like that? Let me try it like this. Invalid volume. This is probably a different problem now because we exceed the maximum volume in some case, but we get a lot less errors. I think some symbols we cannot trade, but there's nothing we can fix here. Okay, so let's see now, and the performance is also better. Okay, so let's make sure now that we only trade the maximum lot size. So that's very easily handled. So we can say that here, if lots greater than symbol info double M symbol volume max, then, well, let's do it like this. Max is equal to this, min actually not sure if I even want to check for the minimum value, but yeah, if it's greater than the maximum value, you can just say lots should be max, and if lots is smaller than the minimum value, lots should be min, and this should get rid of this error in NVIDIA that we try to trade like 1000 lots or so and we cannot, then we instead just trade the maximum lot size. You could also go ahead and split it up into 2 trades, but yeah, for now I think this solution here is it's totally fine. It's a quick and an easy solution. And this problem we cannot really solve is if the market is closed, and then there are some other errors that we cannot solve. Maybe some symbols we cannot really trade, or only position closing is allowed, but this is broker related and our program cannot do anything about it. But yeah, this is how a program like this could look like. So you can see here it on paper is a very good performance. Of course, this is traded in 1 minute open, high, low, close modeling method now. So it would be probably a little bit more accurate, maybe a little bit worse also if you trade every tick based on real tick. But this is how you can create a very simple template for stock trading and execute strategies like this. For example, I personally believe that this is very interesting. Yeah, because as I told multiple times already, I'm a big fan of the stock market and the idea of trading the stock market with this strong long bias, because usually economies grow. And you can see we can at least mirror and even have a better risk-reward ratio, I think, than the actual index, because I mean, here the drawdown is also quite big. It is as big as 45% maximum here, while the actual index only had 37%, but it's not much bigger, the drawdown that we had here in our strategy compared to the index. On the other hand, we have a much better performance with like 300% instead of the index that just had 100%. So I think this is a very, very solid approach. And yeah, I hope you can let me know in the comments if you like this idea. I might play around with this a little bit more and also test other strategies with a template like this. Or actually, I will use this exact template maybe in more programming tutorials also in the next days. Also, you can of course not only do this for the Dow Jones stocks, but you could also do for Nasdaq, or actually for any stocks. You can also use not only US stocks, but also French, German, Italian stocks, whatever you want. Just make sure that the pricing is okay and that you do not pay too much, which might ruin your strategy. Also, I just realized one more thing. In this test, I did not respect the costs for holding positions overnight. So this is what I will add before we close this tutorial down. So I will just go to my stock portfolio manager and copy the block from here, because in this program I already included this section that we need for it. It is this block here. Yeah, I think here. So I will add it in the on tick, and I will explain it also to you in a second, just very briefly. I hope it's fine like this. So, this needs to go here and this needs to go away. Okay, what I added is I just added this block here. So just copy it on your own into your own program, and then you will also have it. This is necessary if your broker will have the swap mode interest rate or current interest rate. And this is the case, for example, for IC trading. And this modeling is unfortunately not calculated correctly in the strategy tester, so you have to do it manually. My way of doing it manually is just calculating the swaps and then using them or respecting them or displaying them as a withdrawal in the account. So I have a separate detailed programming tutorial for this on the channel, so you should definitely look it up if you are interested. But in short, what we do here is we first of all check if it is a new day. Then we go through all of the open positions in this account. We select every single position. Then we check if the swap mode is the swap mode I just talked about, the swap mode for the interest rate. Then we get the actual swap here, which will be the price multiplied with the volume, multiplied with the swap percentage, divided by 100, divided by 365 to get the swap for one single day. Then we need to check if we are currently on a weekend, where we have 3 times the rollover. Then we just multiply it by 3, and then we just check if it's if it's 3 times, if it's Monday and the previous day was the rollover times 3. Yeah, so this is just, as I said, I have another programming tutorial on the channel where I explain this in detail, so I don't want to go into detail here. But these 2 lines are just to check if it's a 3 times rollover day. Then we calculate or multiply the swap by 3, and then we just check if the swap is negative, then we do a withdrawal. If it's positive, then we do a deposit. So if I compile this and do the same test again, then the test should look a lot worse. But it will also be a lot more accurate, because we cannot just ignore the swap costs that are very substantial, especially if we trade stocks where the swap rates are usually quite high. So now if we finish this test, performance should be less, so we don't end up at 200k, but should be a little bit less for sure. And then we should also see, you can see here it's actually a substantial amount. We end up 50k less, and you can also see here if we go to the deals, all of this is now shown as withdrawals. But yeah, still a solid profit, still a very good risk reward ratio, I think, for this specific strategy. And this is a template. You can use this, you can modify this. It was actually very, very simple the way we set it up. You can make it a lot more complex, but I wanted to keep it as simple as possible in this tutorial. So in short, we just included 2 files. We create our own CStock class with a bunch of member variables. We have a constructor, we have the onTick function, we have the get MA value function, and the execute by. These are the 3 simple functions that we used here for this program so far. And then we end the CStock class. Then we have a bunch of input variables. We have 1 global variable, which is the array that we use to manage all of the stocks. In the on-init, we fill the stocks array with all of the stocks. Actually, before we do this, we should also clear the stocks array. And then in the on-dinit, we do nothing. And in the on-tick, we just call the onTick for all of the stocks in our stocks array at a specific time to save some programming or processing capacities in the optimizer especially. Actually, if I would run it in a normal account, I would probably just delete this and use it like this, so it's less affected by errors and stuff. And also in normal, like real-time processing mode, we usually don't really have a big problem with computing power. And then this is the last block I just added. It's for it's for calculating the actual swaps. This is important if the broker you use is calculating the swaps in the SA interest rate. And this is just the separate function to fill all of the different stocks in the stocks array. As I said, you can use you need to use the symbol names that are the symbol names for your broker. This is how the names look like for IC trading, but for your broker it could be different. Also, you can add whatever you want here. You can also add currencies, you can add indices, you can add other stocks, you can add whatever you want, and that's the whole program. Very, very simple, 160 lines of code, but I think a very good result already. I think this definitely has potential, and I might work more with this. So let me know in the comments what you think about it, and I hope you were able to follow along. It was not super simple, but as I said, there are other very simple programming tutorials on this channel, also the full programming course. And after doing this course, you will definitely be able to understand all of this easily. So let me know what you think. I hope you liked this, and I will see you in the next video. I'm out. Have a great time. Good trades. Bye-bye.